is Boadu TV. Truth and integrity.
Ha, Boadu TV so. Yama mu nyina akwa aba. Na wo a won subscribe ye no ye best subscribe. Afi ha so de oba ye comment pa ye nyina enye comment mu. Comment section mu. Iwia na ya like video no. Na finally ya share. Adom Otchere tiesim. Chairman Wontumi arrest no. Wa fire e de afa ho ye pa. Na Chairman Wontumi asem ne de me say wakoda yoko. Wakoda yoko. Enya saketo MPP kugu wonya saketo omune police for ho nya saketo. Oye no sinchen ya CJ aye pa madam toko no. Mame no de aye ne de NDC for apam na wi o. Paul okakure nkosi hwe. Adom Otchere atiesi mewurawura tokoro bie mu. Ai, atiesi mewurawura tokoro bie. Emunsem kan nyina. Ewa ha Adom Otchere. Wode ema. Na osi gina paye den waye den atani general waye den izemu Paul isema we yegu ho no ya botre ne tibi wate.
I traveled abroad to the United Kingdom as I do sometimes, and I was coming back on the flight on Sunday, isn't it? So these days some of the flights have internet, so you can use the internet. So I was using the internet, and I just kept getting text messages. Are you on the flight to Accra? I said yes. They said, be careful because the is it BNI, NIB? National Security want to pick you up at the airport like Kwabena Edu Boahen, same style. I said, about what? They said, well, we don't know, but I got it from 2 people. Then somebody who was on the flight who was also, I think, using internet. I think he texted his people and said I was on the flight with him. He came to me, to my seat, and said, Charlie, I hear that they want to pick you up when you arrive at the airport. I'm not sure what it's about. I said, I don't know. He said, well, that's what I was told, so be careful. I said, well, but how careful can I be? So we came on, and as soon as I got off the plane, calls started coming. They want to arrest you. BNI says you talk too much. I don't know whether it's BNI or it's NIB or it's National Security, but everyone seems to say National Security. They say you talk too much, and it's not even by the important people. Some of the middle-level people think that they should teach you a lesson, and you sit on TV, and every day are talking about Kwabena Edu Boahen, and every day are talking about this, you're talking about this, and NDC has come to power, and you won't stop that your foolish program, and you are still talking, and they'll deal with you. By the time John Mahama gets to hear that they've arrested you, you've been there for a day or so, and then you would learn a lesson, something. So I arrived, and I got into the terminal. I think I observed some movements. So one of the guys called me and said, are you at the airport? I said, I'm at the airport. He said, but what are you doing? I said, I'm waiting for my luggage. And I had quite a bit of luggage because I had brought in stuff we are setting up a podcast studio. So I brought in stuff for that, cameras, tripods, and all of that. So quite a big luggage. Many luggage. I was waiting for. He said, no, don't wait for luggage. Leave the airport. I said, really? He said, yeah, leave. So I called my guy. I said, Charlie, let's go. So I said, where should I go? He said, go home. I said, but how? They said, go home and come for your luggage later. Just leave the airport. This is Sunday night, Kotoka International Airport. So I left the airport. And then I went to somebody I knew at Burma camp, one of the important people. So he said, but what are you coming to do? I said, well, they said they're going to arrest me, so maybe they should arrest me in your house. And then we were chatting, and he said, let me check. He did some checks, 1 or 2. I said, oh, wow. But when you were leaving the airport, how did you drive out? I said, I drove out this way. He said, oh, these are people, eh? That's like he said, these are people, eh? These are people, eh? These are people, eh? And I said, well, it's not from, I heard that it's not from the top. It's from the middle people who have been told by somebody in America or something that you should catch this guy and teach him a lesson. He's such a fool. Every day he's talking. Look at what he's done with the Kwabena Edu Boahen case, to the point where now people think that the guy should not even be prosecuted. He sits on TV, and you people are allowing him in Ghana there to be sitting on TV and talking rubbish. I said, oh, wow. So that was my story for Sunday. So then I got out, blah, blah, blah. Later on, the luggage came. So I asked the first person who told me that, so what shouldn't I do? What should I do? He said, don't travel anytime soon. This is what they want to do. They want to create a spectacle of you, put you in handcuffs, same as Kwabena Edu Boahen. And then everybody will see, there will be videos, you have been arrested, and then somehow internationally, all the people will see the video and think that you've done something wrong. By the time you're explaining to them, you do a lot of international things. We're in the process of completing a second book, and we are working with international people for that. Whilst I was away, we discussed it. The book is entitled, oh no, let me not say it now. Let me not say it now, it's coming. We are doing a second book. So he said, this is what they want to do, is shut you up and all that. And I said, but I have a ticket to go to Munich on Friday to watch the Champions League final on Saturday. Paris Saint-Germain and the Inter Milan. I'm going on Thursday. Say, no, don't go. When you are going, they may let you go. But when you are coming, when are you coming back? I said, if I go on Saturday, I'll come back on Monday. He said, when you are coming back, I'll go on Thursday and come back on Monday. And he said, when you are coming back, they will do that. So you don't travel for now. Make sure you've spoken to important people in the government. Tell them that you are traveling, that let them know about it. Because the top people may not know. It is the people who they want to teach you a lesson, all those kinds of boys. So that was my experience on Sunday. So I got home, relaxed, 11 o'clock. So when I'm driving on a Monday, when I was driving, I see some car that I turn, I look, then shadow is there, I balance then. Oh, Ghana, my happy home. Why are people like that? Why? Can't they make an argument? You say something is wrong, we say something. Can't they do that? They always have to come and arrest somebody and they arrest. Really? Yes. So the story is that yesterday, Chairman Wontumi went to CID, Criminal Investigations Department. You remember on Friday, after the arrest of the infamous and dastardly arrest of Adenta Kumi in his home at 6 a.m., and after that, whilst we were still dealing with that story, we were told that people have gone to Chairman Wontumi's gate in Kumasi in his home, and they were forcibly trying to enter the gate so that they go and arrest him. Chairman Wontumi told people that he already has an appointment with the CID people on Monday, and that he's preparing to come to Accra for that appointment. He doesn't know why they're coming to arrest him. Anyway, that story died. Now today, yesterday, Chairman Wontumi went to the CID. He was there for several hours answering questions. He's been cautioned on a few charges, mining without license, mining in river bodies. Basically, he's been charged with 3 counts of what we call galamsey. And that's what he has to deal with now if the prosecution were to begin. Today, he was required to report to the CID again, which he obliged. After going to the CID and signing his documents and leaving, he parted company with his lawyer on his way that he was going back to Kumasi, and then he'll come the next day that the CID is looking for him towards the prosecution whenever it starts. As soon as he got out, there was a James Bond movie. Do you have the videos so that we can show the viewers? Yeah, I'm guessing they have the videos, and then we can show the viewers the videos of there you go. Do you want me to talk over it? There you go. These are the videos of the arrest of Chairman Wontumi. For those of you who are seeing it for the first time, these videos are from Asasi radios, several radio stations across. This is how they picked him up, and they sent him to the Iyoko headquarters. It was quite brash and quite brutal. This is a man who is under the investigations of the Criminal Investigations Department. Somehow, Iyoko is also saying that they needed him, and Iyoko did not invite him. They actually crossed his car, and then, the guy is with CID, so they could have told CID that when Wontumi comes in there, tell him that Iyoko is looking for him. Of course, multiple state agencies can be investigating one individual for different things or even the same thing. A lot of these party supporters were quite agitated about the way this arrest is being conducted. They do not think that Wontumi is above the law, that he shouldn't be arrested or he shouldn't be prosecuted. But the manner in which it's being done suggests that we don't have a democracy and all of that. If Wontumi was running away, yes, but look at this. Look at this man agitated, shouting and talking. I was monitoring the Metro TV coverage. Yeah, that's the NPP third vice chairman, national third vice chairman of the NPP. He is completely overwhelmed. Is he not the same guy who pushed the microphone away some time back? Yes. He's a very agitated guy. He's a very strong man. And I think he's addressing the camera. He wanted the things that he's saying to get into the camera. So we have to get the latest on what is happening with Chairman Wontumi. More party people are thronging. NPP party people are thronging to the office of Iyoko. The office of Iyoko is at the High Street, Accra, near the office of Shraj. It used to be the serious fraud office here near Shraj, and it is now the Iyoko office. You can see the soldiers and the policemen massing up over there and creating all of these issues that kind of make you think that we have a democracy deficit, which we certainly don't have. After 30 or so years of practicing this democracy, why are we having these issues, which is akin to military takeovers, it's akin to civil war breakouts, and it's akin to all of these things? Thankfully, some members of civil society are arguing against these things. And it really shouldn't be. We don't know how long Chairman Wontumi will be kept there, but he's there now. And the policeman here, you can see in the Iyoko accoutrement, is explaining to the people why they have to keep Wontumi. And there's a back and forth going on. There's a back and forth going on. It's not that healthy. Is that Titus Glover? Yes, I think I can see Titus Glover in the video. Is a former member of parliament for the Tema Central constituency. He's now on the cards trying to become the MPP's national organizer. And so he rushed there to sort of deal with these matters. I mean, this is not that good. This is not that good. I'm not sure why they are doing that. You can always get Wontumi into a court and you can prosecute him and all of that. But it's 10 minutes to the top of the hour at 10 o'clock. Wow. That's the Chairman Wontumi story. And our reporter is there. He'll be giving us a phone call sometime soon for us to get the latest, very, very latest on the Iyoko situation. All right. Let's have a look at this one as well so that we get out of the way and we get to the main story for Lawyer Balfour to come into the studio. This weekend, there was a big banter. This weekend, there was a big banter, isn't it? Godfrey Dame on the right-hand side of your screen and Thaddeus Osorih on the left-hand side of your screen. We saw it. Thaddeus Osorih wrote something quite long, and it was quite attacking of Godfrey Dame. Godfrey Dame responded. It was quite attacking of Thaddeus Osorih. We looked at both letters and thought that, look, this is not very, very, very good. So we put up this flyer and said, guys, let's call a truce. Put our pens and swords down. These are two great lawyers. And we CC'd it to Ambrose Derry, Mahama Yarega, to Paul Adom Otchere, Justice Kulendi, and Tamaklo Eduji. That all of us should get together. We don't want two of our lawyers fighting. And why did we include Justice Kulendi? Because Justice Kulendi had occasion to say this about Godfrey Dame in the past. He says, in an uncommon but impressive, and for that matter, commendable turn of events, the Attorney General, referring to Godfrey Dame, and Minister for Justice, Principal Legal Advisor to the government, filed a statement of case on the 26th of July 2023, where, and he quotes, in the spirit of intellectual honesty, and after careful consideration, he expressed his substantial support for the views and positions canvassed by the plaintiff. This is Justice Yoni Kulendi writing something very beautiful about Godfrey Dame, Attorney General as he then was in 2023, and speaking about it. So we know that Justice Kulendi would have a good way to bring these two lawyers together. So this is Justice Kulendi in the middle, Godfrey Dame, one of his favorite men on his right, and Thaddeus Osorih, who is almost like a brother to him on his left. And so we called on Justice Kulendi as one of those. Ambrose Derry is another man who can also help resolve some of these problems because Derry is also very close to Thaddeus Osorih. Thaddeus Osorih worked for Derry's law firm in the beginning. Those days, they used to be at the bus stop restaurant on the Ringway Estates for those who live in Accra. And I was frequently in that law firm almost every day. I was going there. And I would see Thaddeus Osorih almost every day in those days. Thaddeus Osorih used to live in Greater Estates. I lived in Teshunuwa Estates. And now we talk quite a bit. Even this weekend, I've spoken to him quite a bit. And so I thought that, well, it's not nice. It's not important. It's not. All of these people have something to contribute to the legal profession. They both have something to contribute to Ghana. They both have something to contribute to the constitutional development of our society, especially now that we are discussing constitutional amendments. It's not a time for good lawyers to be fighting among themselves. It's a time for good lawyers to bring their heads together and let's see how we can make Ghana work better. So here on Good Evening Ghana, we are saying that let's call a truce. Justice Kulendi is very much capable of resolving some of these matters. And so that's our conclusion for that. But I like the artwork. You know, my guys here, they are very good. These young people, they are so solid. I told my producer, Prekuda, can you put some artwork together within a very, very short time? See what he brought. Beautiful. This is just so nice. They have the red, gold, green. They have the handshake, Charlie. The guy who did the artwork, I owe you. I owe you Alewa. I'll buy you Alewa. Okay. All right. So that's our take on this one. Many people were calling me, have you seen that? Have you seen that? Have you seen that? Have you seen? Have you seen? Have you seen? I said, I've seen it all. Have you spoken to Godfrey Dame? I've talked to Godfrey Dame every hour. Have you spoken to Thaddeus Osorih? Yes, every night and then I talk to them. So what are you saying about it? You see that Dame wrote to a part, someone else was there. You see how Thaddeus Osorih finished him in the last paragraph? Another person comes, you see Charlie Dame finished the guy. Oh. I was listening to all of it. I said, that's not the way to go. That's not the way to go. Everything everyone said is true, but is that the way to go? That's not the way to go. Let's call a truce to Godfrey Dame and Thaddeus Osorih. I don't know whether tomorrow they are going to be in court. Tomorrow, Godfrey Dame will be in court for sure. I don't know whether Thaddeus Osorih is going to come with Attorney General. But if they will be there, I'm not sure whether I will be there. But if they will be there, it will be good. There will be a good time for them to have a handshake. And I'm guessing, I don't know who's going to be on the panel, but if Justice Kolendi is on the panel tomorrow, I hope that after the case, you call them into chambers and say, hey, you will stop the nonsense you are doing. Let's move on and let's build this country. Bravo, how are you? Happy are we, students of Presbyterian Secondary School. A black one is another day, full one. But this is the story. Okay, I thought we were going to start with the arrival of Professor Jane. Let's acknowledge that. So Ghanaians, we're all very excited to see that Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman arrived on the shores of Ghana sometime at the end of last week. I like the look on President Mahamad's face. You can see the genuine excitement. I'm not sure what they were talking about, but you can see the genuine excitement on President Mahamad's face. And every president will be excited to see the vice president back, with all the wild rumors about she's unwell. All of those rumors came up. So President Mahama in this beautiful photograph with Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman. I think this is beautiful. We are very excited that Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman is back in town. And we're also excited that the top hierarchy of the NDC faithful, let me name them, Capo Julius Deborah is on the screen, the far left. Valerie Sawyer is next, Alexander Segbefia, and Madame Esther Koba, Mr. Chikate's wife, Chachu Chikate's wife, are those that you see in this photograph, all applauding to something that I think Professor James said. And more photographs here. Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman now being met by the president. Okay, so let's look at who are in this photograph as well. I don't know all of them, but I can see, of course, Valerie Sawyer, Alexander Segbefia, Kaisel Ato-Forson, Esther Koba, the Vice President, Her Excellency, His Excellency the President, Madam First Lady, Marietta Brew, Dr. Boama, who is the Minister for Defense. I believe this is the Minister for Transport, I think, Felix Kwachio Fosu, and my own mother, Auntie Faustina Nelson, formerly of the CPP. Auntie Faustina Nelson is a great politician with the NDC. And Sam the Brew Butler, one of my favorite people, Sam Brew Butler. When we were young, we read articles of Sam Brew Butler saying that he has a thick skin. And in those days, he was with the Ghana Football Association. Sam Brew Butler is a businessman. He used to represent the Arab Contractors, a very powerful Egyptian company, construction company in Ghana. Sam Brew Butler has done a lot for Ghana. I'm not sure why he has not written a book. But Sam Brew Butler, when he writes a book, please buy it and read it. He has a lot. He has a whole lot to share with us. So this is the entourage, very high profile, that welcome Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman. So we are very, very grateful for this thing that God has done for us, bringing back our Vice President in this way and in this manner. Okay, now let's get to the controversies about Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. So Honorable Sami said that during the days of opposition, he maintained fire on Akufo-Addo. Fire on Akufo-Addo. Akufo-Addo said the presidential jet is gone on servicing, so I flew a plane from New York to Accra. Okudzeto had the amount of money. Everybody was sort of, Akufo-Addo shouldn't spend that kind of money just traveling. And then the matters became worse when defense minister went to parliament and apparently murmured something like, Akufo-Addo cannot even take a shower in the plane. He was not even speaking on the floor. I think he murmured it. When he was talking, people were, parliament, they heckle quite a bit. And they said, oh, but the plane, he cannot even bath in it. And they said, hey, did you hear what he said? He cannot bath in it. He cannot bath in the plane. President wants to bath in the plane. Cartoons were developed out of it. I went to see the defense minister back in the day. I don't know, those of you who watch Good Evening Ghana will remember. I interviewed him in his office. I brought the tape, we played it. Try as they did, it was very difficult because the circumstances of the economy as it is today was quite difficult. Kenke had just approached 5 cities in those days. Everybody was angry. And then they heard that the president is flying some private jet and da-da-da-da-da. Ablakwa took advantage of it and milked it completely. He actually over-milked it until we say to these things. This is Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. He is not just any minister at all. Oh. Today he's the foreign minister, and therefore he must have had a role to play in the decisions made by the government on how the vice president returns to Ghana. He's the foreign minister. And also one of the great pets of the vice president. The vice president, and I say pet, I mean pet in quotes. The vice president really likes him because they work together at education. And the vice president has testified on Samuel Ablakwa many, many times. And he's a good guy. There's no doubt about that. But he's not just, you see how God works. You see, God can embarrass you. This is God embarrassing people. You are foreign. He's not a great minister. If he's a great minister there, he's sitting somewhere looking at his farm, doing planting for food and jobs and doing Nkokon Ketinketi and those things. And the vice president flies over his head and comes to Accra. Fair enough. But here you are, Minister for Foreign Affairs. Vice president goes to London, it's foreign affairs. Vice president is coming from London, it's foreign affairs. So right in the foreign affairs, right on his desk, he must have played a role in the decisions that were made to fly this luxurious private jet. We have no problem with that decision. We think it is correct. It's a correct decision. The vice president has been unwell. She's coming in. In fact, even if we still had the presidential jet, but it wasn't in the state as comfortable as can take somebody who is just recovering from some short illness, we shall still fly a presidential jet. How much is the flying the presidential jet for Ghana? Ghana's GDP is what? Flying the vice president who needs it. Needs it is the point. The vice president needed that. Why should we not do it? We should do it. But because of what Ablakwa said to milk people and to get power, that is why we are talking today. Otherwise, it is nothing. If this happens in other jurisdictions, it is zero. Because some of those politicians don't do what we do in Ghana. I always told you that Joe Garte told me that people don't respect politicians because of what politicians say about politicians. People think parliamentarians are thieves because of what parliamentarians... Have you ever heard an American congressman saying that another congressman who is in power is a thief? Have you ever heard a British MP saying that another MP in the government is a thief? They never say these things because they know that you can't prove it. So you shouldn't say it. They argue with them, they tackle them, but they never call them names like thief and crook and all that. But here in Ghana, because some people know that without that they cannot come to power, they cannot argue on the basis of what is happening and bring them to power, they always must take advantage of human feelings. Economy is difficult. Price of maize is high. Price of kenke is high. So the president is a thief. That is why the price of kenke is high. Cecilia Dapa is a thief. That is why you are broke. That's why the country is broke. Because Cecilia Dapa has stolen all the country's money and put in her house. 6 months into office, Cecilia Dapa has not been even questioned. That's a beautiful video of the vice president arriving. Oh, yeah, I like this video. I like this video. I like this video. Oh, that's President Mahama. You know, President Mahama is very calm. He allowed his wife to do the embrace and all of that. I think that's great. I think that's great. Let's get back to that Ablakwa story. So this is Samuel Kujetu. He has played a role in this video that you just saw in getting the vice president in. He sat on radio because he wanted Ghanaians to look at him as a saint and therefore elect the NDC into power. He said, which he didn't have to say, that whenever he's in power, and he didn't even limit it to the president too. He said the president or the vice president does something like this, he will resign from the government, assuming that he will have a ministerial position. That's what he said. That he will resign. Now he's foreign minister, and he's the one who has given birth to this story. The story of Jenano Pokwa flying in a private jet to Ghana. Ablakwa said, if this happens, he will resign. Do I think he should resign? No, he shouldn't. He shouldn't. He's a young man, just started a foreign ministry. He has opportunity to make something happen. Why should he resign? I don't think he should resign. But he must have the presence of mind to come out and apologize to Ghanaians. Like Fifi Kwete did at the appointments committee. Ablakwa must apologize to Ghanaians. That I said it, I meant it then, but looking at the circumstances now, I shouldn't have said that. He should say it. He, Ablakwa of all people, should say. Otherwise, one day, he may find himself as foreign minister flying the private jet himself. God knows how to let that happen. God, he knows how to let Ablakwa himself fly a private jet into Kotoka International Airport. And he will wash his face and wonder whether he's dreaming, and he will not be dreaming. It is he, Ablakwa, who has flown. Do you remember Peter? When Jesus told Peter that you will deny him, he said, you saw what happened. So Ablakwa should apologize. Otherwise, one day, God will make he Ablakwa himself, foreign minister. He will fly a private jet. He will forget. He will sit in a jet in New York. He will forget that he has said that. He will arrive and pictures will be taken. He'll say, but you are the one who said it. And when the Professor Jenna, now what happened? You didn't even happen. Now you've done it yourself. These are the things we say about politicians. Learn how to talk. Don't over milk. Don't overtake advantage when you are in opposition. Be careful. Today I saw Franklin Kujo post something on Sam George. And he said, be careful what you say in opposition. I'm going to get to that as well. Sam George said so many things that if you play before him today, he has to dodge. He has to run away. So did Ablakwa. The desperation to get Akufo-Addo's government out of power. without dealing with the substantial issues, but trying to deal with issues that will give you an advantage in opposition. Everybody in opposition can take advantage of it. I can organize a demonstration today that the dollar is gone down. Why is KK not going down? And then one day, a government will be in power. I'll be there, and they'll say, hey, Paul Adom Otchere, you were the one who organized the demonstration that KK should go down. You are in government. The dollar is this way. Why is KK not? Resign. But because I understand and I'm trying to build maturity, I watch the processes and deal with the substance. Not so much taking advantage of what has happened. You can't do that in politics. You can't. And a black man must be ashamed of himself. He must be really ashamed of himself. This lady is on social media. Is making the rounds on social media. Her name, as she puts out, is Dr. Ann Sansedeli. Now, there's a document, the Ghana Medical and Dental Council had an inquiry. I'm not sure why the inquiry was done, but somebody sometime this year wrote to the Ghana Medical and Dental Council asking whether this lady was a doctor. The Ghana Medical and Dental Council answered in the very strong negative that she is not a doctor at all. She had been seen on posters with President Mahama sometime last year doing an event. I have seen the posters. I've sent it to some important people that this is the problem going on. She's not a doctor and she was with President International Women's Day, something like that. So that story has been running. Okateshe did quite a bit, I understand, yesterday. And it's been running around. I think she's deep in social media and socialite. She does quite a bit of videos and presents herself as a doctor. It is said that she's not a doctor at all. This is a story on Modern Ghana says, fake medical doctor on GH1 TV exposed. Apparently, she has a television program on the television station, and she presents herself as a doctor. She talks to people about medicine. She talks to people about prescribing drugs and all of that. We are getting more of the story. We'll deal with it on Thursday. On Thursday, we'll come with a big full throttle on this one because this somebody is a fake lawyer, somebody is a fake doctor, somebody is a fake architect that young people do. Maybe we have to get a psychologist to explain to us why will a young person present herself as a doctor, something she's never studied, something she doesn't know anything about, and then she says she's a doctor. There are also those who may be physician assistants. They say they are doctors, they say they are nurses, they say they are doctors. But this one has absolutely very little to do with medicine. Absolutely almost nothing at all. And she's an American citizen, and as well as a Ghanaian citizen. She lives in America. So people then decided that they're going to write to the American institutions of medicine. Again, the results came that she's negative. But this is the big story. Before we get into the details, this evening, she's been appointed by the government of President Mahama onto the National Health Insurance Board. Now, this is the story. The Minister of Health, Dr. Minta Akando, has sworn in the new board of the National Health Insurance Authority. Inaugurated in Accra on Tuesday, 27th May 2025, the board is expected to play a critical role in steering the NHIA towards greater efficiency, financial sustainability, and equitable healthcare coverage for all residents in Ghana. The 17-member board, 17-member board is chaired by Lawrence Ni Okante Ajete. I'm sure he'll be receiving a lot of applications. The members include Dr. Koku Awono-Williams, representing the Ministry of Health, Dr. Alhassan Idrisu from the Ministry of Finance, and Francesca Atuluk from the Department of Social Welfare. Other members are Professor Samuel Kaba Akori, representing the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Abiba Sakari from the National Insurance Commission, and Dr. Bernard Na Hoffman from the Social Security and National Insurance Trust. It also includes Dr. Sadat Bawa, representing the medical and dental profession. So Dr. Sadat Bawa must have a lot to explain about why. Okay, let's move on. Dr. David Tete for the pharmacy profession, and Mohammed Adamu Ramadan, MP, representing the accountancy or finance profession. Legal expertise will be provided by Dr. Divine Indombi Banyubala. Then Dr. Ann Sansadeli and Dr. Zaneto Rawlins also serve on the board. Now, Ann Sansadeli is said to be is not a doctor here in Ghana at all. The Ghana Medical and Dental Council, I'm sure some of you who watch social media, you've seen the document going around. Today, we don't have much time, but we are indicating it to the government that, please, if this is true, she can be on any board she wants, but she should not be described as a doctor. You can't describe her as a doctor when she's not a doctor. Apparently, there are a lot of videos. We have our researchers. They've done the story. They research on all of that, including her social network and what she does and who are her accomplices, who are her partners. We're going to bring all that to you. I think this morning, a report was being made to the CID. Other reports are going all over the place. And then in the middle of that, she's sworn in. So when these stories were going out, we were also looking at the stories. Then suddenly, she deleted her Facebook page deleted her Facebook page, deleted her Instagram page. Some people felt that she wanted to run away, so they made a report to the authorities at the airport. They are looking at it. They say she's still in Ghana as of today. She's not going anywhere. It's getting very murky. Today, I know people call people in New York to go and get the document and then speak to the consulate. All of those issues going on. At the same time, the Ghana embassy was closed by a Black Wise opening on Thursday. We don't know whether there's any relationship with that. We don't know. But this is the story. We cannot allow that to happen to our Ghana and our children. Somebody comes and says, I'm a doctor, it's not a doctor. We hear that all the time. And it's prosecutable. It's a prosecutable offense. She actually presented herself in a hospital at Spintex Road, presenting herself as a doctor and dealing with patients. So all that record is there. And I think that this should be dealt with. Whether it's NDC, MPP, it doesn't matter. Whether she's MPP or she's NDC, it doesn't matter. This is fraud. If it is true that she's not a doctor, it's complete fraud. We'll get to the story. Today, we don't have much time. We have to deal with the Chief Justice. We'll get to the story later. Let's move on. Let's move on to my friend John Jinapo. Abdullah Jinapo. How are you, sir? How are you doing? Now, I feel sorry for him. There's a minister who came and said that containers have been missing, trying to show that the government that his predecessor government was corrupt. And that's the language of the campaign. Language of the campaign is that MPP is corrupt. Akufo-Addo's government is corrupt. They take them out. So when they come in, they want to show that the government is corrupt. So one of the things he said, which I believed, was that the containers are missing. When he said that, I asked people that, do you have a number for Dubik Mahama? Oh, what's this for? Please. Why? Okay. Yeah, let's start again, please. Let's be careful. So this is John Jinapo. I'm starting again, Madam. I'm starting again. This is Abdullah Jinapo, the Minister for Energy. This is not his first time as energy. He used to be Minister for Power, and now he's Minister for Energy. It's not his first time. So he should be quite experienced. But as I'm saying, the campaign was run on corruption, which is fair. MPP is corrupt, and so we take them out and we bring a new government. So when the new government came in, they were always in a hurry to show the corruption that they had alleged during the campaign was right. The corruption that they had alleged during the campaign was right. And then, and so he then held press conferences and said that their containers, ECG, containers that belong to ECG, that has ECG accoutrements in it, had been missing. He also alleged that what ECG people were doing and the MPP is that when the containers come, they refuse to clear it, and then it's given to a private person, and then ECG goes behind to go and buy the things from the private person. Things ECG has imported, say meters or some accoutrements, it comes to the port. ECG clear, they don't clear it. This is what he said, or this is a story that came out, a narrative. And then they go and a private Chinese man goes to buy it, or Indian man goes to buy it. Buy the containers from the port, because the port is disposing of the containers. They can't keep them forever. 2,000 and over containers. They can't keep them, so they're disposing of it. And then when they dispose of it to a private person, ECG then goes to a private person to buy it. It looked like robbery. It looked like real robbery. It looked like people had taken this country to the cleanest and they needed to be dealt with. And they were MPP people. All of us believed it. I believed the story when he put it out. So I called for the number of Muhammad Dubik, and I asked him. He said, do you have time, Paul? I said, I have time. He said, come and let me explain to you. So I went to see him. He told me, I said, is this the matter, Dubik? He said, this is the matter. I said, so what John Jinapo says? He says, no, it cannot be true. I said, why don't you then do interviews? Why don't you go on interviews? He said, can I come on Good Evening Ghana? I said, not yet. Do interviews on the Akan radio stations, because people need to understand this a lot before we can do Good Evening Ghana. So then he was on Asempa. I heard him. He spoke well. He said, containers have not gone anywhere. People started doing cartoons with their containers, putting wings on the containers. Containers have flown away, blah, 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 blah. Dubik, you've been vindicated. You've been vindicated. You've done well. The containers, the process is found. Let's get back to Jinapo's trajectory and let's see what happens in the trajectory. So this is 29th March 2025. Jinapo demands forensic audit over missing ECG containers. The Minister for Energy and Green Transition, John Jinapo, has revealed procurement breaches and potential corruption within the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, following the discovery that over 1,300 containers meant for the power distribution have gone missing from the Tema port. Everyone did not believe the story because Tema is an automated port. Tema is one of the best in Africa. How does 1,300 containers go missing and Gapoha does not know where the containers are? It sounded like Pilolo, as we said in the thing. It sounded like a cock and bull story. How? A container, 1,300 of them, they've been missing from Tema Harbor and we can't find it. And it's MPP people stole it. This is what the Minister of State said. Minister, sworn in, taking the oath. Minister of Ghana, he said that the containers have gone missing. He was able to say that because he's enjoying goodwill. They won an election, and so everything they say will be swallowed hook, line, and sinker. And I did swallow it hook, line, and sinker. Then comes 27th May 2025. So Jinapo sets up a committee with taxpayers' money. Sets up a committee, a so-called forensic audit committee, to audit where the containers have gone. The Gapoha does not know where the containers have gone. We need to set up a committee and pay them more money to find out where the containers have gone. For the committee to go and ask Gapoha that where did the containers go. For Gapoha to tell the committee that this is where the containers went. And that has to be paid for by taxpayers' money. Will people have questions to answer tomorrow? I don't know. But these are some of the things we do in government, whether it's MPP or NDC. It is crass. What is this? Gapoha is sitting there, huge, big institution. You are a minister. You cannot call the Gapoha directors and ask them that where is the container. You set up a committee to do a forensic. Oh my goodness. Anyway, Ghana, my happy home. 2,600. It says now he said 1,300. This one says 2,637 missing ECG containers traced at Tema Port. Investigation reveals. Investigators have traced 2,637 unaccounted ECG containers at the Tema Port. Chief of Staff orders evacuation and Energy Minister directs procurement reform amid ongoing investigations. So they found out that the containers were at the Tema Port. But that's the only place the containers would be because the containers don't have wings. They cannot fly. So minister says, I can't find them. And then the committee says, we can find them. They are not actually 1,300, they are 2,600. Okay. And then on 27th May, today, minister comes back, missing ECG containers. 2,300, twice the number of containers presumed to have gone missing, retrieved. Retrieved from where? Who should pay for this? It is dereliction of duty on the part of the minister. Dereliction of duty. That's what has happened. Why are we doing this to ourselves? You're a minister, run your show and do your work and put the lights on and deliver it, and Ghanaians will applaud you. Ghanaians are no longer MPP and NDC. They are common sense. Ghanaians have stopped being MPP and NDC. They are about common sense. Let's do the common sense work. So there are NDC people who are angry with John Rapport tonight. They've called me. NDC people say, what's the minister doing? What's the minister doing? The other day, I heard Mugabe Mase, my friend, talking about John Rapport on his thing. He's a proper NDC guy. So what is Rapport doing over there? He's wasting our time. Every day he's complaining and he doesn't put the lights on. There are NDC people who are genuinely upset with these pillow games that we are playing with a country that is nearly 70 years old. 70-year-old country, we play these pillow games as if we are children. The containers are missing. I set up forensic audit. From Gapoha, because you have power and you have police and you have BNI and you have national security, you think that you are protected. Tomorrow is pregnant. I'm really sorry for Jinapo. I feel very, very sorry for him. Anyway, leave it there. 20 minutes to 11. We have to get onto the big story. Let's see what the Chief Justice is asking the courts to do tomorrow. Dominic Ayine and Godfrey Dami are going to lock horns at the Supreme Court building tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. You should be there to see the panel of 5. We don't know the panel yet, but I'm sure we'll find out in the morning when we get in. They usually do not announce the panel. But what is the Lord Chief Justice asking? This is the first time she's bringing an action in persona in all of these impeachment problems. She's asking for a few things. She says, 1, she has not been informed of the allegations in respect of which the prima facie case has been made. Neither has she or her lawyers been shown the prima facie determination by the Council of State to enable her legal team prepare for the hearings. That's very interesting and that's very important. They are not even communicating with her. They are charging her and they are not telling her what the charge is. It reminds people of the kangaroo trials of the 1979 J.J. Rawlings affair, where you go and sit in a Buri Peduase Lodge, which is also a national security installation, and then you have some screens. You don't see the one asking you questions, and they ask you questions like, how many girlfriends do you have? You're a military general. How many girlfriends do you have? The number of girlfriends you have determines the extent of corruption. You say you don't have any girlfriend. They say, what about Auntie Yata at Adabaka? You think we don't know Auntie Yata at Adabaka? You are General Akufu, you are General Champon, you are General Amedome, you are General Boahen, and you have to answer these questions. You don't answer the questions, it's a secret trial. They finish with you, they make a prima facie, they condemn you, and they take you to the range, and they shoot you down to death. This is what they were doing, and this is what they are doing again. I hope this is not that. I sincerely hope this is not that. But how do you bring a Chief Justice and you say you have made a prima facie? Show her that this is the prima facie that was made against you. It's 18 pages. Go and read it. And your lawyers can respond and we deal with it. They won't show her that. But there's more. The committee fixed dates for hearing and did not even inform the counsel of the CJ, the lawyers for the CJ, though they were present. The committee refused to grant her or her lawyer's audience, claiming that her lawyer isn't known even though the committee itself served the processes on the same lawyer in its capacity as counsel for Justice Tokonu. Now, on the first day of hearing, which was last week Thursday, Mrs. Tokonu did not attend the hearing, but her lawyers did. They said that they will not see the lawyers, even though the committee had written to the lawyers. They said they will not see the lawyers, and she's complaining about that before the Supreme Court tomorrow. But there's more. Ooh, sorry. Oh, sorry, viewers. Okay. Her legal team and herself were denied the opportunity to use phones or laptops or any devices during the hearing, despite the fact that the legal team of the petitioners had access to their phones and laptops. Now, why should that happen? Why should that happen? You've asked her to come for a hearing. She's the subject matter of a petition. She has her lawyers with her. They have their phones. They are texting. They are looking at it. You say, no, you can't bring your phone. Because they are doing everything to make sure the outside world doesn't get to know what is going on. And that's why she has important decisions to make. Mrs. Tokonu has very important decisions to make. Because if you go in and you see the whole thing, and it looks like they do not want the outside world to hear, and we are saying all of this based on the evidence that Mrs. Tokonu is supplying to us. We were not there. But this is the evidence that she's supplying to us, and we believe her. That she goes in there, and they do not let her and her legal team have access to their phones. If it's a general rule that all lawyers and participants in this meeting cannot have access to their phones, that's okay. But when she sees that the people who have petitioned against her are having their phones and their laptops, but her lawyers, no, they say you cannot come in with your husband, you cannot come in with your daughter, you can't come in with anyone. They search her thoroughly before she gets in. I'm not sure what they are worried about. And then because they also don't want her to tape record. What are they worried about? The thing coming public and people hearing it. What are they worried about? If you are doing the right thing, the light shines on these things. It's not a problem. If you're not doing anything wrong, you are not concerned about the light shining. Look how many lights are in the studio here. Because we are not doing anything wrong. So then let the light shine. Let the light shine. Let people see it. What's wrong with that? And then you come number 4. It says, the spouse and children of the CJ Tokonu were denied entry to the sitting, and she was subject to searches of her person because they wanted to be sure she doesn't have a recording device. What is the recording? What are you worried about? She should record everything she wants to record and play it. Because you are the committee, Justice Gabriel Kwaman is chairing. He says that, yes, committee members, Mr. Chikata, do you have a question for the subject matter? Mrs. Tokonu, can you get ready for cross-examination by Mr. Chikata on the petition? That's as simple as that. Why shouldn't the general public hear about it? Why? Why shouldn't the general public hear? Then she says here as well, the hearing is taking place at a high security zone and premises of the Osu Castle. Into brackets, we put the bracket there, a building considered to be the extension of the executive arm of government being premises of the national security installation, when such an Article 146 proceedings have all been held at the court complex. This is a judicial inquiry. This is a pseudo-judicial trial, isn't it? And so why are you holding it at the Osu Castle, national security, when the courts have plenty of places to hold it? And then this one, the petitioners are not being made to testify against her, and hence she and her lawyers won't be given the opportunity to cross-examine them. So those who have made the petition, this is the bad part. The person who has done the petition, his name is Daniel Oforio, his name is Adom Otchere. I have petitioned that I want Justice Tokonu removed. I've petitioned to the president, I want Justice Tokonu removed. The president proceeds with the Council of State to make a prima facie. The prima facie is established, and therefore the committee starts working. Adom Otchere, the petitioner, is told that you don't need to come. It is a sine qua non. It is essential that the person who wrote the petition must appear before the person he's accusing in the court. And then they come and say that you, Adom Otchere, did you write this petition? My Lord, I swear on the Bible. Yes, I wrote the petition. Okay. Did you write paragraph 1? I wrote paragraph. Read paragraph 1. Paragraph 1, Justice Tokonu is misbehaving at the Supreme Court. Okay. Justice Tokonu's lawyers say, when you say misbehaving, what do you mean? And then they cross-examine me so that the committee is hearing. And then the committee can make their decision. But for you to boldly say that the petitioner should not attend the petition so that the accused person does not have the opportunity to confront the petitioner, what kind of law is this? Is that what the 1992 Constitution is about? Could that be what the 1992 Constitution is about? Need I say more? Barrister at law, solicitor of the Supreme Court of Ghana, also called to practice in England, in the courts from Lincoln's Inn. Lawyer Balfour, member of parliament for Mensha, is here to tell us the latest. But Lawyer Balfour's presence here is significant for one reason. The last time he came here, you talked about why there should be a regulation for the president to extend the prima facie situation. That there should be a regulation so that everybody knows what happens. Today, in Parliament, Mahama Yariga seems to be suggesting something like that. What did the majority leader say?
So the majority leader, in announcing...
That's a flyer from City News. It says, government to introduce new rules on removal of superior courts of justices. Why are they introducing new rules?
Because it is an inherent admission.
And the Bar Association also made that point. Yeah.
Article 146 in its form cannot be operated without a regulation.
Except by a judicial officer?
No. I'm saying in its current form.
Oh, in its current form.
In its current form, you are looking at, yes, except by a judicial officer as provided for by Article 296C, right? But we are saying that, Paul, let's even take the grounds, right, for which a superior court judge or a chief justice may be removed. Stated misbehavior. What is stated misbehavior?
Coming to work late every day.
Can you imagine? Look, someone working at Metro TV, if the person is fired for a reason which is not provided for in your employee's manual, that would be unlawful termination.
Yeah, to be abused.
Yes. Now, that is even a contractual relationship, right? A labor, an employer-employee relationship. Now, we are looking at the Constitution. If you take the Constitution of Ghana, anytime a person has had to be punished for one reason or the other, the person must know, right, ahead of time, the definition of that offense, okay, the ingredients of that offense. If you look at the Constitution of Ghana, right? But in this particular case, nobody knows, very respectfully, with all humility to the people of Ghana, I don't mean to offend their sensibilities, nobody knows the animal called stated misbehavior. And so if I come to office as a Chief Justice and, you know, I'm fond of wasting even stationaries, somebody tomorrow might say that is stated misbehavior, because what amounts to stated misbehavior is not known. So now, an obligation is placed on the committee to now determine what is known as stated misbehavior. So they are exercising a discretion, which is not even limited, because it is not defined by any law. And it is so dangerous for proceedings which is even supposed to be in camera, which in and of itself doesn't even have a regulation as to what should be done by way of a step-by-step approach, right? So they go in and decide what should be the procedure for the whole proceedings, right? And so fundamentally, you cannot operate Article 146 without a regulation. It is inconsistent with the whole, you know, philosophy of our Constitution, which is to ensure accountability and transparency. You cannot.
But
So,
let me ask.
Paul, wait, please, oblige me. You see, there are two different forms of prima facie. Prima facie, when you go to the police station and make a complaint, the police officer looks at the complaint and determines whether, in fact, you've committed an offense under Article 19, Clause 11 of the Constitution, which is that a written, you've offended a written law. The offense is in writing, and the punishment for which is also in writing. Okay? Now, when the police officer serves you notice of the offense, he tells you the offense for which you are standing trial for, and then provides you with a brief summary of that offense. When you go to trial, That is prima facie, because it determines that there's a prima facie offense. When you go for trial, when you are being prosecuted in court, and the prosecution closes its case, right? It is for the court to determine whether there's a prima facie case against you. And the court will tell you why there's a prima facie case against you. In this particular...
And therefore compel you to open your defense.
And compel you to open your defense. Otherwise, you go to jail. You'll be convicted and sentenced.
But if the court determines that there's no prima facie, what happens?
It says that there's
Even
no case,
after the prosecution have made their case.
It says that there's no case to answer. There's no case to answer. But in this instance, the Chief Justice is standing, if you like, trial. Is going through these disciplinary proceedings or impeachment proceedings with a prima facie having been established. And she doesn't even know which of the offenses, which of the complaints brought against her, that the prima facie has even been established.
That's serious.
That is very serious.
If she's telling us the truth.
Yes, it's very serious. Because, Paul, you see, it is not about justice.
But hold on, let me ask you about the Constitution, the framers of the Constitution. Is it not true that where the framers of the Constitution wanted regulations to be established, they said so? For instance, the Constitution set up the Commission of Shraj, and they said that Parliament will take steps to do that. Parliament will take steps to do that. No. Where they haven't said it, should we not assume that they didn't intend it?
No. If you look at the Constitution, it would say that Parliament would pass a law, which is in the form of an act.
An act, yes.
When it has to do with the regulation, 296C will talk of a guideline in the form of a legislative instrument or a constitutional instrument.
Yes, but 296 hasn't said that about 146.
No. It refers to where you are exercising a discretionary power.
Like the Electoral Commission.
Like the Electoral Commission. And even in this instance, you are exercising a discretionary power.
In 146?
Yes.
Who is exercising the power? The President or the Council of State?
The President and the Council of State. They are exercising a discretionary power in determining what amounts to...
The President may suspend her.
Apart from that, what amounts to misstated misbehavior is discretionary. Because you have a set of facts. Nobody has given you a definition as to what amounts to a stated misbehavior. You now have to determine, right, what amounts to a stated misbehavior. In fact, if you look at the report, the Ghana Bar Association, right, versus Attorney General, the Urban case, Justice Pega said something that was very instructive. He said that when you look at the qualification for appointment as a superior court judge or a chief justice, proven integrity, right, competent, and so on, competence, and so on and so forth. The Constitution doesn't even tell us, right, what amounts to proven integrity or competence, right? It is for the President and the Council of State to decide, acting together. Okay. Now, in the same token, in determining what amounts to stated misbehavior, it is for the two of them to decide. Paul, is it fair that I work as a Chief Justice or a Justice of the Superior Court, okay, and I am likely to be removed for stated misbehavior, but I don't know what amounts to stated misbehavior?
So the regulations that you're asking for, and the Mahama is saying they will do, will now indicate and
would define what amounts to stated misbehavior.
To narrow it down?
To narrow it down.
So that people know whether they are doing misbehavior?
Will spell out at what point will a lawyer called to the bar for several years standing who has been appointed as a judge will now be said not to be competent. You understand? So there's this whole proceedings and Article 146 in my humble view, or you cannot operationalize it without a regulation.
Let me break and answer viewers' questions here. Now, we are hearing that the latest on Chairman Wontumi, because my producer called a lawyer, he says that Chairman Wontumi requested for medical assistance. I don't know what happened to him, but he requested for medical assistance. Upon that, he was driven to the bank hospital. But they said they were taking him to the bank hospital. But they went to the bank hospital to search for Wontumi, and he was not there. He said Wontumi requested for medical assistance, and they claimed to have sent him to hospital. from the direction that they gave us, they may have gone to Kolebu rather than Bank Hospital. But if they were told to go to Bank Hospital, which is in the cantonment area in Accra, they went there, but he was not there. But they don't know exactly where he is now. Because the reason why Wontumi was moved out of Iyoko was that he asked for medical assistance, and they told his people they took him to Bank Hospital. They've been to the Bank Hospital. Wontumi is not there. We'll keep you updated on the matter. Yeah, lawyer, so...
So, Paul, the point is that...
This is the matter that's going before the Supreme Court tomorrow.
Yes. What is before the Supreme Court is for an order for the whole proceedings to be shown, to be held in public.
Including that?
Including that.
But including also this one?
Yes. You see, I think that if we are not careful, I've heard people say, why is JUSAC not talking? Why is the Association of Judges and Magistrates not talking? There must be something they have against her. I would want us to look beyond Justice Tokonu and look at the office of the Chief Justice and the democracy of this country. There's a high propensity that if care is not taken, Paul, we are going to go on a slippery slope. Out of bitterness, anger, or hatred for certain persons, we may take certain actions that would, be to the disadvantage of our democracy. Look, today, you say that we've been vindicated because I called for a regulation. When Mr. Boahen, for instance, was arrested, and I said that, look, let's comply with due process of law. The public or media trial was not necessary, right? The Attorney General said on that day, for instance, that investigations have been completed, right? And that he should consider a plea bargain, okay? Subsequent to it, what happened? The Attorney General went to court and said that he should be remanded because he's likely to compromise witnesses, okay? That clearly tells you that he's contradicting his earlier position. Subsequently, he's supposed to do disclosure, and he's yet to do them. When we have called for due compliance with due process of law, we have not done so because somebody is our favorite, or we like somebody, or because we think the Chief Justice is going to be there to protect MPP. No, far from it. We want to ensure that the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana is enforced, is protected. It is not for today, it is for tomorrow. And we are guided by the history of this country, where people given power have the predisposition to abuse the Constitution, to abuse the fundamental human rights of people, to have their way. And eventually, subsequently, they have been proven not to be right. And so we have to be guided, because unless we are guided, there is that high risk of abuse. The CJ is asking for a public hearing. Paul, let's look at the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. When you look at Article 146 of the Constitution, it's a special provision for the impeachment of justices of our Superior Court and the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. And so it's a special provision. Being a special provision, the fundamental question that confronts us, where, for instance, the Chief Justice's lawyer is inviting the court to consider other provisions, and in the light of that, say that she's entitled to a public hearing. Are we going to say that that is the position? Because the provisions on commission of inquiry is separate from the provisions of the impeachment of the Chief Justice. But Godfrey Dame, the former Attorney General, is saying that the definition of a commission of inquiry under Article 295 of the Constitution includes a committee of inquiry, and therefore with the provision for impeachment under Article 146, right, should be considered also as a commission of inquiry.
And therefore what?
And therefore, the right to public hearing is available to the Chief Justice. This is what confronts the court tomorrow. But I'll raise a question. Do you remember when Anas did his expose on the judges?
Yes.
And he showed the documentary at the International Conference Center.
Correct.
You remember? The lawyers for Anas, my own friend, Nipapu Samoa, at the time a junior lawyer, went to the Supreme Court and said that by reason of Anas having shown the documentary at the conference center, and the documentary being at the heart of the petition, it was part of the proceedings under Article 1468 of the Constitution, which is supposed to be in camera. For the purposes of your viewers who may not understand in camera simply means secret hearing. Nobody knows what goes there. The Supreme Court said, yes, we agree with you. Article 146 should be looked at in its totality. When you look at it in its totality, then the secret hearing involves the petition itself. Okay? And so to the extent that it involves the petition itself, and to the extent that the Constitution mandates a secret hearing, then the showing of the documentary is unconstitutional. But this is the catch. The Supreme Court, that notwithstanding, stated that the unconstitutionality of their conduct did not invalidate the proceedings. Because there are two events that are supposed to truncate the proceedings. One being the determination of prima facie or otherwise. If there is no prima facie, then there's a truncation. And then the conclusion of hearing post the determination of prima facie. And to that extent, the viewing or the screening of the documentary at the conference center does not invalidate the procedures. The effect, very respectfully, then is that if a breach of Article 1468, which is the in-camera hearing, if it is breached, and it will not invalidate the proceedings, then the argument will be, well, there's very little premium to Article 1468, and therefore it can be breached.
Because that's what the Supreme Court has held.
Yes. Therefore, it can be breached without any consequence on the integrity of the proceedings. Right?
But the Supreme Court can depart from that authority tomorrow.
It hasn't departed yet.
But tomorrow it has opportunity to do so.
Wait. Before you go there. The fundamental question that will confront the Supreme Court, if you ever make that argument, is whether or not the Supreme Court can be seen to allow a breach of a constitutional provision itself. In other words, you may breach a provision of the Constitution and it should not be an issue, right? As it was in the Anas case, to the extent that it didn't invalidate the proceedings. But the court, can they make a decision which would invariably mean that a provision of the Constitution is being breached? That is one question.
So that the argument is that the point Stokono is asking for, that I don't want an in-camera hearing. If the court were to accede to that, there will be suggestions from legal people, some legal people, that the Constitution is being breached.
It's being breached.
Yeah.
And the order to breach the Constitution will be coming from the Supreme Court. Because they would
But then the Supreme Court has done that before in the Anas case. They entertained the breach and indicated that this kind of breach does not invalidate the process. Exactly. Did they distinguish between what kind of breach invalidates the process and which kind of breach does not?
That is why they said that there are two events that will truncate the process. And in this particular case, that breach should not truncate the process. In other words, it should not affect the validity of the proceedings.
What events did they say will truncate the process?
The determination of a prima facie case or otherwise. When it is determined that there's no prima facie case.
That will truncate the process. That's the legal translation of the
and then post-determination of
that the person is not guilty.
The hearing itself.
After the hearing.
After the hearing, it will truncate the process.
So these are the only two?
These are the only two. And so if you look at it from that perspective, then you can say that well, the Supreme Court can give us a pass.
But they also said it in the case that you're referring to, that the viewing of the announced document was in the public interest.
That is not what they said.
Did he
That's
say that?
what they said. No, that's not what they said. They said that in other jurisdictions, the viewing, the breach, right, could have been punishable. They made reference to authorities in South Africa and so on and so forth. But there is the position of the law. We have to be careful not to be not to be contemptuous, because there's a position of the law that no court can grant immunity for the breach of a statute or a constitution, a constitutional provision. So will the Supreme Court make an order which would effectively breach a constitutional provision?
What about the
That
other
is
leg,
what we'll
the other leg of
confront
the
it
conversation about the shall? That's also confronting the court tomorrow.
Yes.
That the use of the word shall is obligatory. Justice Atuguba has explained shall, I believe, in Election Petition 1, to say that is not always the case.
You see, 1468 has already been determined to be mandatory in a J2 versus Attorney General, reinforced in dairy. The consequence of a breach of 1468 is what we witnessed in the dairy matter.
Which is the announced matter.
Which is the announced matter. Now, that is where I'm saying that in the light of that, will the court now say that, okay, given that the consequence of the breach very respectfully would not affect the validity of the proceedings, are we ready to say that is one that can be overlooked?
And therefore grant her request for a public hearing.
Grant her request for a public hearing. But that is also coming up strongly against the position that will the court be ready to do anything that will come across as they themselves, by their order, are breaching a provision of the Constitution? It's a question that would...
Okay, that they giving an order to breach is different from they entertaining what has already happened.
Exactly.
Which was in the announced case. The video had already been shown.
Exactly.
And they said, don't worry, we can go on.
Exactly.
But now, a subject of the petition is asking that, I don't want shall to mean obligatory. Look at it and allow me in the public interest. And also in the interest of fairness, because of the matters that she's alleging that have already happened.
So, if you also recall, in the Anasis matter, when it came out that certain judges were corrupt, the popular notion was that the judiciary is corrupt.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so the conduct of one judge may affect the entirety of the judiciary. Okay. And that is where we need to advert our mind. Whether 1468 is a personal right or an institutional right.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Is this in the interest of protecting the judiciary, or is it in the interest of protecting the subject?
The subject.
For which reason the subject may say, I don't need that protection.
Exactly.
But the subject cannot speak for the institution.
Exactly.
Let's go to text messages, and we have to be leaving here. It's past 11 o'clock. And Fatima is our only social media editor on the table right now, because everyone is busy, isn't it? We are doing so much work. Fati, what are people saying?
I thank you, Paul. So this is coming from Samuel Ofosuba. And he says the inhumane treatment of the Mahama administration and the committee established by him to probe through petitions against Her Ladyship Gertrude Araba Asaba Tokono, Chief Justice, is fundamentally to torture her without a blatant cause. It's also a mockery of justice and a plot to unjustifiably expunge her from the office. Yao February says the constitution narrative the process of the removal of the Chief Justice, but silent on the rationale and what is in the prima facie. Also, it's silent on the guidelines for the committee to follow the probe the Chief Justice expects in camera. So, the President and the committee should be fair and circumspect in their discretionary powers. Said says the NDC never ceases to amaze even the weakest minds of all the Ghanaian public. After all, the hue and cry over missing containers of the previous management of ECG and the labeling of innocent persons as thieves, Napa thinks he can be left off the hook for all the lies and media trials. Master Planner Jr. from Kintampo says the politically motivated weak tactical agenda to remove the Chief Justice is a non-starter. It's clear that the president is the one behind all these frivolous petitions and plans to remove the Chief Justice. Ghanaians are watching very closely. Now, Said comes back to say, how low could this Mahama government get? A person is under public scrutiny for impersonation. She has been called out as fake medical practitioner, and the presidency, the Ministry of Health, finds such a dishonest character worthy of appointment to the NHIS. How cheap could this government be? And lastly, coming from Junior Akbar from Tamale, he says, whatever NDC are using national security to intimidate people, they should not think that they are going to be in power forever, and telling them for a fact that they should remember that last 7 months they were in opposition. They should remember that no matter how long they have been in power, they will surely go back to opposition. Now back to you, Paul.
Oh, yes. Okay. Lawyer, let's look at one last thing before. The issue about the petitioners not being asked, as she alleged, not being asked to come forward to talk about it. What do you make of that?
So I think that they are trying to apply certain principles from adversarial litigation in there, where a party can make a complaint or can accuse somebody, but at the trial, the person may decide not to testify, but will bring in people to testify. I think we need to distinguish that from an impeachment or disciplinary proceedings. If a person makes an allegation against me, I should be able to confront that person, right, and test the person's allegations through the power of cross-examination for the veracity of that claim to be determined. I don't think that we should apply, the strict, if you like, rules of evidence, adversarial contest in our courtroom in that regard. And for me, it really exposes why Article 146 cannot be operationalized without a regulation, a well-thought-through regulation, particularly because it's an in-camera hearing, a secret hearing, akin to the historic kangaroo hearing that we have had in this country. In the absence of a regulation, I don't think it is proper. I've read things like, if it is true that the petitioners and their lawyers, the lawyers of the petitioners being given the opportunity to use laptops and phones, I don't think it is fair when they are being discriminated against by being deprived of similar rights. My brother, let me share a brief story with you, and we probably will end it.
Yeah.
I was once there when I was called by my partner at the time, Julio de Medeiros, your good friend, that a very good client of his had run or had knocked down a police officer who had attempted to arrest him. But the police officer was wearing colored, he was not in uniform. And so the guy didn't know the person was a police officer. And so I was called to the East Legon police station to go and have conference with the person. When I got there, there was a crack team of investigators that had come from the head office, the police headquarters, to interrogate the guy. When I got there, they said they were not going to give me the opportunity to even have conference with the gentleman. Unfortunately, they had lost one of their own, so they were supposedly very angry, and justifiably so. They were very angry. And I told them one thing which struck a nerve with them, that look at your own colleague. At the time, that was the time when Tahuda, DSP Tahuda, was going through some trials and was being captured in the media that she was being unfairly treated. So I told them that, look, if today, you deny this person the right to cancel, tomorrow you may have a similar situation like Tahuda, and you may be denied the right to cancel. And that would make you unhappy. If we set the right standards, we don't know what is going to happen in the future. Today, it is Justice Tokonu. Tomorrow, it might be any other justice of our Superior Court. who may go through this process, these proceedings. At that point, because we didn't do it for Justice Tokonu, we can't cry for you. There are people who today would constantly refer us to Madam Charlotte Osei and say, it didn't happen in Charlotte Osei's time. Why is it that you are complaining now? Yes, because we didn't cry for Madam Charlotte Osei, some of us may not have the moral right to cry for Madam Tokonu. But if we cry for Madam Tokonu today, tomorrow we'll be able to cry for you. So let's all come together and make sure that she has a fair trial, fair hearing, goes through a proper standard, proceedings which is in compliance with due process of law. So that even if she's found to be, she's found not to be innocent, or she's found to have committed one wrong or the other, warranting her removal, she'll go home satisfied with herself. That is the essence of due process of the law, which is why we are making constant demand for compliance with due process of the law.